Hey, what is up, mortals? It is, here with a new video for you. Welcome to Season 3 Part 7. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. After 32 tortuous hours in the cave, the dragon Lacrima fully absorbed into the three Dragon Slayer teens. Laxus left at some point during the process. The three youths were too consumed in pain to remember why the scar-faced man left. After the whole process, the last thing the three remembered was the voice of Urza Scarlet. Well done, you three. I thought the process would have taken at least 3 days. But you have surprised me again. Relax now, young ones. You have all earned it. The crimson-haired knight spoke in her usual stern tone, but all three could swear they heard a tone of pride in her voice. That or the pain from absorbing the lacrima had fried their brains. After hearing this praise from their master, the three youths passed out completely. Urza spoke out toward the cave opening. Could you take care of them for me? I have to tend to the other students. A male voice spoke to Urza. Of course, darling. I will take them back to their cabins to rest for the day. I will also keep watch over them while they sleep. Even here we cannot be too careful. After all, these three may be our best hope for defeating him. A tall man walked into the cave and stood beside Urza. The man had short-cut blue hair and a tattoo on the right side of his face. I don't like the idea of forcing these young ones to fight our battles for us. They should not have to bear the burden of our failures. Don't forget, Urza. They will not be fighting alone. We will be there to support them. Also, it is not just our fight. If our enemy has his way, then this world will be destroyed the same as ours was. We cannot let that happen again. True, but it still makes me uneasy. Urza then turned and gave the blue-haired man a loving gaze. However, I am glad that we are back together, if even for a short while. Jello. The woman wrapped her arms around the man in a fierce hug. So am I, Urza. Jello then returned the embrace. The two broke their hug. Urza left the cave first to return to the other 1A students. Jello then waved his hand through the air. The limp bodies of the teens levitated into the air. The three hovering forms then followed Jello as he left the cave. Elsewhere, Shigaraki sat at the bar in his hideout enjoying a drink. Kurogiri noticed that his master looked unusually happy today. Master, are you all right? You seem out of character today. I am fine, Kurogiri. I have just realized how narrow my sight has been. How so, master? I was so focused on destroying All Might that I missed the big picture. Even if I destroyed that smiling jerk, his legacy would remain. The Hero Society. All of those smiling civilians, and those little punks who foiled my plans, were all inspired by All Might. So have you decided not to destroy the #1 hero? Not at all. I just think that it would be more fun to destroy his legacy in front of his eyes. Oh, to see the despair on his face. Only once he realizes that all of his hard work was for naught. Then, and only then, will I end his ridiculous life once and for all. Is that where this team of new recruits comes in? Before, I tried to overwhelm All Might and the heroes with numbers. It wasn't a bad idea. But all of the villains I employed were super weak. I now see that to take down the Hero Society I will need heavy hitters. That is where the Vanguard Action Squad comes in. If they achieve their mission, good. If they fail or members die or are captured, then I know I will need to get stronger pieces. You plan on using them as cannon fodder. Do you really think I am that heartless? We are teammates working toward the same goal. I would never belittle their importance, but I am the player. And this is my game. And no matter what game you're playing, some pieces will need to be sacrificed. I can't wait to see how they handle themselves. This should be entertaining. At yet another hideout, the villain Acknowledge sat in the dark. The monstrous man held a lacrima in his hand. The orb was bulk in color and glowed with a sinister red light. So it seems that All for One's apprentice is making his move. Good. That will give me the cover I need to make my plan happen. A huge grin broke out across the disturbed man's face. The first part of my plan is complete. I have the first item. It was easier to get than I imagined. All I need to do is get the other item. Fortunately, I have found it. The jaxed man shoved the lacrima into his chest. The glass orb vanished into the broad chest of the ancient monster. He then stood up and walked toward the door. Before I get the other item, let me go and try out this new power of mine. Shigaraki's assault team should be gathering outside of the camp for their attack. That will be the perfect cover for my test. Acknowledge walked out into an empty alleyway. The man started to glow with a sinister black aura. The man then took off into the sky like a rocket. Back at the camp, the three Dragon Slayer youths were fast asleep. Jello had taken Wendy back to the girls' cabin. The small girl was being watched over by Lucy, who had been recruited by Urza to help with the training camp. The blue-haired man had then taken both Midoriya and Kaminari to the boys' cabin and was watching over them himself. Kaminari laid in this bed, jerking back and forth in his sleep. It was clear that the yellow-haired boy was having an awful dream. Suddenly the teen started talking in sleep. No, 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 look out. The young man then sat bolt upright in his bunk and shouted, "Fishsticks." After a moment, the boy calmed down and looked around the room. The boy was wondering where he was. From the bed across from him a voice replied in a somber tone, "Do you mind keeping it down, Kaminari? My head is killing me, not to mention the rest of me, Midoriya. How did we get here? I imagine that guy brought us here." Midoriya pointed to Jello, who was seated in a chair between the two boys' beds. "You're both awake. That is good. I expected you to be out for longer. Urza said you were resilient, but this is something else. Not to be rude, mister. But who are you, Midoriya?" The hero fanboy broke in. "He is the heavenly hero Alterus. But I have no idea what he's doing here." Midoriya is correct. This is my hero name. But you two can call me Jello. As for your question, Kaminari, I brought you two back to the boys' cabin after you finished assimilating the dragon Lacrima. Jello noticed that Midoriya was getting a worried look on his face. "Don't fear, Midoriya. Wendy is fine. I took her to the girls' cabin to rest. She is being watched over by Lucy Heartfilia." "Oh, that is good." Jello nodded. "As I was saying, I brought you here because Urza Scarlet asked me to." Just then the door to the cabin opened. Urza Scarlet walked into the room. "Well, I see that both of you are awake. That is good to see." Urza turned to Jello. The armored woman had a tender look in her eyes as she spoke. "Thank you for looking after them, Jello." Midoriya spoke up at this point. "So, master, how do you know Alterus?" "I know him, Midoriya, because he is my husband," the tall woman said matter-of-factly. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. With the services Skillshare provides, you can get access to many in-depth tutorial videos on basically anything you want to learn. Each class that they have is bound to help you with your creative endeavors. Do you want to learn how to make videos like this one? Do you learn how to write scripts or edit audio? Skillshare has you covered, and with our link, you can have a 14-day free trial. So what are you waiting for? Click the link now and get 14 days worth of classes free. Link in description below. Both boys' minds were blown. Neither boy would have called Urza unattractive. Quite the opposite, actually. However, the idea that the stern woman was married was a total shock. Midoriya was very familiar with Alterus. While the man was not as popular as someone like All Might or even Urza, he still had a strong following. The man was also a capable hero. Standing in the same room as the man, Midoriya now knew that the man was also a wizard. While all of that information was impressive, it all paled in comparison to the fact that he was married to a hero like Titania. Kaminari got a goofy look on his face. The boy thought to himself that Jello must be a true superhuman to survive living with a woman like Urza. Urza saw the idiotic look on the bolt-haired boy's face. The crimson-haired knight pointed her gauntleted hand at Kaminari. "You are thinking something unseemly, aren't you, Kaminari? Stop that right now and remove that ridiculous look from your face." Kaminari replied in a panicked voice. "Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. Now, do you two think you can rejoin your classmates? They have been hard at work." Both boys nodded to the teacher. Both were still feeling very drained from their time in the cave. However, after hearing the story that Urza and Laxus told them, the two knew that they needed to get much stronger. "Master, how is Wendy doing?" "She is doing fine. The girl was as eager to get back to training as you two. In fact, she and Lucy have already joined the others." "Then we should get going." "Right, get changed, both of you." Urza turned to her husband. "Jello, when they are ready, you can put what we discussed into action." "Of course, my dear. You can always count on me." After the boys got changed, Jello led the two to join their classmates. When the two boys walked up on their classmates, they saw that the members of 1A were indeed hard at work. Each one of their classmates was involved in a different type of training to improve their powers. Several members of 1A saw Midoriya and Kaminari approaching. A small group of students, including Yaoyorozu, Ashido, Uraraka, and Aoyama, led by Wendy, ran up to the two boys. They asked if the two boys were all right. The dragon teens answered that they were, and that they were ready to start training. As the group interacted, Laxus came up to the group. The man spoke in a firm tone. "Hey, who told you five you could stop training?" The 1A group all freaked out at the sound of the man's voice. Kaminari knew that tone well. The man had used that very voice during his training as a wizard. The blonde understood why his friends all shrinked from his former master. The man could be seriously scary. The man with the bolt scar looked at the students with a demanding galor. Wendy and the group turned to return to their training. Laxus then replied, "Not you, Marvel." "Huh, what did I do, sir?" "You three are coming with me. Jello, take my place and keep these younglings on task." "Of course, Laxus. I wish you luck. Don't be soft on these kids. If you do, Urza will not let you hear the end of it." "No need for the warning, Laxus. I know that better than anyone." The Electric Master and the Dragon Slayer youths walk a short distance away. Midoriya was the first to speak up. What do we do first, Master? We are ready to go all out. Good to hear. Now that you three have been charged with Dragon Mana, I am going to teach you how to use Dragon Force. But before that, I want you three to get accustomed to your new power. To do that, we are going to have a fight. Laxus threw off his large fur coat and attacked the three youths. The teens were able to dodge the tall man's strike. Good to see that you three still have your agility. I am impressed that you three recovered this quickly. The three thanked the lighting master for the compliment. Okay. Follow me. We need some more room for this training. We do not want your classmates to be on the wrong end of the fight. The group walked to a clearing in the woods a long way from the camp. Laxus then started the fight again. The youths found that their movements were faster, their sense keener, their strike more powerful. It took some getting used to say the least. Many hours later, Laxus had exhausted the teens. All three were laying on the ground breathing heavily. Wendy and Izuku now had a greater respect for Kaminari. The idea that the electric teen had endured years of training like this was mind-shattering. No wonder Kaminari was as strong as he was. I am impressed by you three. Urza did not lie about your strength, but you still have a ways to go. Catch your breaths and head to dinner. You have all earned a good meal. Meanwhile, a group of fearsome villains were gathering outside of the camp. A skinny patch-faced man spoke. Looks like we are only missing 2 members. Once they arrive and night falls, we will execute the plan. A large man wearing a cloak and mask replied to the dark-haired man with a gravelly voice full of irritation. Come on already. I just want to rage. Let me off the chain already. A young girl with a crazy look in her eyes came up to the group. What a plan, what a plan. I get to cut people. I want to start now too. No chance. Shigaraki told us his plan. I think it is a good one. We wait for the others and then we attack. The thin man mused to himself for a moment. You know, at first I thought Shigaraki was all talk. He was also way too hot-tempered. But look at him now. He gathered this elite assault group and came up with a great plan of attack. Now it is up to us to carry out the plan. Back in the campgrounds, the young wizards joined their classmates at the fire pits. The members of 1A were glad to see that their classmates were okay, and asked where they had been for the last day. The 3 teens did not know what to say. They figured that Urza would not want them to tell their classmates about magic or the other information the masters had given them. Wendy was about to answer when a hand touched her on the shoulder. It was Lucy Hartfilia. The blonde woman replied to Class 1A's inquiry in a kind tone. Urza had some special training she wanted these 3 to undertake before they began. She pointed out Jello. Alteris is one of the best trainers when it comes to elemental powers. She wanted him to give these 3 extra instructions on basic control before they started going hard at it. Momo was the first one to speak up. That does make sense. Alteris was focusing his attention on Todoroki and Takoyami the first day, and he was very knowledgeable about their powers. The rest of the 1A members all nodded in agreement with this explanation. Suddenly, Pixie Bob popped up and shouted, "Okay, let's get cooking. After you all eat, we have a special surprise for all of you." The hero known as Ragdoll then spoke. "You all will get to prove your bravery in a test of courage." That sounds like more work. We are all exhausted. With that, the members of 1A and 1B started to prepare their dinner. Midoriya and Todoroki used their fire powers to help the other students light their grills. Urged on by Ada, the students took to the task with what little energy they could muster. After a short while, the group had prepared and eaten a delicious meal. This served to re-energize their bodies, but they were still a bit weary. The UA students gathered by the forest. The 4 pussycats explained how the test of courage would work. Class A would enter the woods in pairs, while members of Class B would hide in the forest and use their quirks to scare the members of Class A. After all the members of A had traveled through the woods, the 2 classes would change places. Mina Ashido responded to the explanation with her normal enthusiasm. This sounds so cool. I can't wait to get started. Urza replied to this show of excitement with a firm tone and a stern glare. I think not, Miss Ashido. I was not impressed by your effort during training today. So, the remedial class will be coming with me for more instruction. Ashido's eyes went wide in terror. You have got to be kidding me. Urza equipped a rope into her hands. She then wrapped the remedial students and dragged them back to the main building. Outside of the camp, the League of Villains, Vanguard Action Squad had all arrived and gathered on a hillside. Looks like everyone is here. You all know the plan. Get to work. We meet at the rendezvous point in an hour. Make sure you find the priority targets. The villains all spread out into the night. Their attack had begun. The Vanguard Action Squad and the students and heroes in the camp below did not know that a certain monster was hiding in the shadows. His presence would make the events of this night turn out differently from how any of them expected. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We The Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description. So feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video. So goodbye and have a divine day.